Welcome to How's Your ePresence? I am Mark Galvin, the founder of ePresence, and we produce this show. This is the place where we talk about business and social media. Thanks for joining us today. So today is the beginning of a brand new format for How's Your ePresence. After hearing a lot from our audience, we've decided to take our shows and focus on ways to help you, our listeners, how to do specific tasks or achieve certain objectives on social media. The goal is we want to make How's Your ePresence turn into a reference library. So if you're interested in learning how to build a target audience on Facebook, what are the tricks of that? We want to answer that. You want to know how to build your followers on LinkedIn to say 55,000 people? Well, we have already talked about that. And you can go back and listen to the show where we met with Edward Theia, where he did that. Today, we're going to talk about how you can use Facebook groups to build communities. And we're also going to do something really unique. And we're going to share on how to use Slack to do the same. In the future, when you want to get back to a show or you're looking for a content item, simply search for you can search for ePresence. You can still search for How's Your ePresence, but ePresence and the show's topic, like how to use Facebook groups to build communities. So those are some of the great things that we can do, or that where we're headed, because we're trying to help people out. Also, something else we're going to change is the other major changes for the show is that we're going to drop the news segment. Okay, I'm not so sure that was necessary, but yes, we're going to drop the news segment, and the reason is because it becomes the dates appear, right? The news items are really attached to that time of year or that date or whatever it may be, because we're trying to create content that can really sit on the shelf that you can pull off in a year or year and a half. We don't want to be encumbered by the news. Here's what we are going to do. Every once in a while, our director of social media and I may see a news item, may come up and share something live. So you can always join us and learn about news as it comes up on the podcast, or come back to the library and pull something off the shelf to learn something about that specific topic. So that's what we're changing. Now that you're here, though, we would love for you to subscribe to our channel. That way you know when we go live. You may be sitting in the office and saying, oh, let's see what How's Your ePresence is talking about. I can learn new about on social media, put us on in the background, and you can tune in and maybe even ask a question, because we're always interested in learning more and more about what your needs are. The other thing that's important to know is that we typically talk about our webinars at the beginning of the show. So if you're here, you can look there at the bottom. We do have that banner going around with what our webinars look like. If you'd like more information about the webinars, wait, I'll cover all of that here at the end of the podcast. So we're pushing all that to the end. Well, wonderful. Let's get on to the show. We have a great show for you today. And because you heard those two interesting topics, so we have an expert that's going to join us today. And that expert is Islin I'm doing this again. We practiced right before the show. Munisteri. Say it right.
Yes,
make sure I say
Munisteri. Yep.
Munisteri. It's almost like monastery, right? Because I understand monasteries, but it's Munisteri with a U in there. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for being patient while I tried to make sure I say your name correctly.
Thanks. It's a pleasure being here on the show.
Well, you come from an organization that understands a lot about digital marketing, but you're someone that came out of more of that engineering side. What did you do before you started the organization you're in now?
For about 9 years, I was a reservoir engineer. So basically a petroleum engineer. I worked for BP for about 5 years on really big projects in the Gulf of Mexico. And then I went up to Alaska, worked for the state of Alaska for about 3 years, helping them evaluate big projects that were going on the North Slope and doing reports and that type of thing.
So Islin, you're not the typical digital marketer, because most digital marketers come out of normal, traditional past where they've done some digital work and they maybe went to college for some things, but you came to it from a whole different method that informed how you look at digital marketing. How do you approach it, which gives you an extra value add that some of the other folks out there that are in your space would not necessarily see it?
I guess approaching it from like an engineering perspective, you see marketing as like a system. Like if you do these set of activities in the strategy, you should get these results. And then if you're not getting those results, we pivot to see what's going wrong and what's going on to see how we can get you those results that you desire for your digital marketing efforts, like through SEO, blogging, social media, like what results are you seeing? And then we pivot to get better results, and we keep on iterating on, what your core messaging is. Hopefully, you know who your buyer personas are, and then we keep on iterating to get the right message out to the right people, so the right people can buy from you.
It's fascinating, and it is really a smart thing, because one of the problems that happens with marketing in general is you can spend a lot of money in marketing, never get a dollar back. And I think this is absolutely true for social media marketing as well as all other kinds of digital marketing. And that is, you need to see a return for that dollar, and you should be able to track that dollar back that you're spending on marketing to where are you finding, what new business are you getting from that? So I think that is brilliant you're doing this, and glad you're here. You and I met, as a matter of fact, we met on through LinkedIn, through a common connection. Actually, it was Edward Theia that connected us. And so love the way that social media works. You're all the way across the country. What part of this, where do you live?
Oh, I'm in Elizabeth, Colorado. So we're about an hour southeast of Denver.
And I just love that. Here we are. The community online is really timeless. It doesn't matter where you sit in the world. You can have a great conversation. So I'm glad we met. I'm glad that you're here. And we're going to talk about some interesting topics today, because you've done some interesting things on social and online. I'd love to get into those. Are you ready to dig into some of these great topics?
Sure.
All right. So the first one is, I'd love for you to share how you have used Facebook groups to build communities. And what's interesting is you are building a community. So that was the first thing that you said that you wanted to do. Why was building a community important to you?
So the first business I started back in 2016 was like a petroleum engineering coaching business. And the interesting thing there is that, like, from your community, you get a lot of inbound content ideas. You get what people's actual pain points and struggles are. Like, you get that on an ongoing basis. So it's not just like a one-time interview. They were just like, okay, yeah, let's do this like half an hour or 20 to 30-minute interview to see what your pain points are. You get to see what their pain points are ongoing, so you can build a better solution.
Good. So you're building the communities, and you're able to find those people that need those solutions. Is that what the community was good for?
Yeah. So there was a lot of it was kind of like a lead generation solution.
Bravo.
That's kind of like why we formed that community. I got members in through answering questions on Quora. But there's a lot of different ways to drive people to your community. I recommend, having a landing page and a form, for lead capture, to collect people's information before they join the community.
All right. So let me ask you a question about that. So when someone lands on the Facebook group, you will have and if I remember right, Facebook will do this. You can land on a page where you can start to collect data on people before they become a member of that group. Is that the landing page, or did you literally send them to another page?
You want to send them ideally to a page on your website, like a landing page on your website where there's a form to collect their information, because there's basically, like, Facebook says you can collect people's information on the form, but like that depends on whether or not people actually fill it out. And then there's all these like random plugins that you have to use to get the information from Facebook into your CRM. So it's better to just have basically a website integrated with your CRM. So we use HubSpot, and basically whoever fills out that form gets added to our CRM, and then you allow them access to the Facebook group.
So this is good. And I think this is a great tip for all of you out there listening, that as you build a Facebook group, you can create that. It's really a point of entry. People have to fill that out to become a member of the group, and you can approve them for that. But what Islin's sharing is go to your own website, have a landing page where you're collecting all that information there. And I think that that's brilliant. And it helps your website out, of course. Are you driving people to your landing page from Facebook, or is it from every organic source that you can come up with?
So we're going to start implementing it on our blogs as the CTA, the call to action on our blogs. Then you can also, answer questions on Quora. You can answer. There's like other. I would be careful of this, but you could mention it on other Facebook groups. You have to get an okay from the admins to be able to do that. Or if they're not okay with it, then don't do it, or else you'll get kicked out of the group. But so there's like lots of social media. You can do that. Posting about the group on social media and driving them to that landing page.
That's good.
Yep. So there's lots of different places or things you can do to drive people into the group.
So do you find that people in your groups are recruiting other members to other people on Facebook to join your group, or is most of your new members, are they coming from your own marketing efforts? And I'm going to say marketing, air quotes here, marketing as in all the other things that you're doing to drive people in there. Are your members helping to grow, or is it pretty much just the marketing?
I think, right, unless you have like some evangelist, or you designate certain people as evangelists in your group that are super contributors in your group. And then you can ask them, you can always ask anyone in your group, like who are 5 people you think should join this group?
Oh, that's great.
And that can help grow group membership, and you can do that through funnels and other things too, but always take them to the same landing page where they have to input their data, so you don't lose that data. Because the thing with Facebook groups and everything is they can take away your group. Like that is you can go on Mighty Networks, they can't take away your group, but there's not a lot of engagement on Mighty Networks from what I've seen. But remember that Facebook can take away your group, so you might want to not always rely on Facebook. So that's why I say there's Slack groups as well.
So good. Before we get to Slack, I think this is such a huge thing, and I want to emphasize this. Facebook can change the rules any day of the week. So Facebook can sometimes be compelled to change the rules because of external forces. I'll give you an example. Right now, Facebook is going through some struggles with Apple, because Apple's changed the way that Facebook will be able to advertise to other Facebook partners. And because they have to work through the way Apple controls that, some of their Facebook partners that they used to push ads to, they can no longer do that. This is a very smart thing. I love this. Create your own Facebook, your own landing page that'll get them into the group. Islin, this is a question. If I land on when I land on the page, I've got your landing page, I fill up my information, and I click a button at the bottom that submits it, how am I then admitted into the Facebook group? Is there a trick to that?
So you can, I don't know if there's a way to do it through Zapier, but we do it manually. We manually vet the person, and then we also include a link to their Facebook, their personal Facebook page. So we're inviting the right person to the group. It's not like it's not like you're inviting random Susie Smiths, because there's 24 Susie Smiths.
Right.
So you need to make sure that they put in their Facebook link to their personal, Facebook page on that form so that you can invite them to the Facebook group. Or if you're doing a Slack group, you make sure they have their work email or their whatever email they want to use to join the Slack group. So you make sure you have the data, because if you don't have the data, like that's a gold mine for you.
Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, I could see that being an issue. Well, so you brought up Slack a few times. In case there are people who don't know what Slack is, describe Slack. I can't imagine that being the case, but I do like to go to the lowest common denominator and make sure we ask those questions. So what is Slack?
So Slack is like a workspace to connect with your team members. That's what was the original intent of Slack is, you have 4 people working at Theia Marketing, for example, and they're working all over the world or something like that. And then you can always like chat each other in a channel, like what's going on, or here's the latest news, or here's the latest progress on this project. What's going on there.
And some competitors for Slack today would be Microsoft Teams.
Yep. So we use Microsoft Teams internally.
Yeah. Google has a solution. And what is that called? Google Chat? Maybe, I don't know.
No,
there are some more. They don't have that anymore?
They don't have it anymore.
Oh my gosh. So it shows you what I'm thinking of. There are a couple of companies that I know of a few folks out there that use Gmail as their mail server, and there's some sort of chat program that comes with that. But that's more or less the gist of how that works. So you're using Slack to help grow your communities. So these are separate communities. This is not the Facebook community. This is exclusive to Slack. How do you do that? How can you get people who are not on your team to join a Slack community?
So it's easy. You just have their email and you send them, I think you just send them the link. You invite them to join your Slack group, basically. You get an email from Slack saying you have been invited to join the Slack workspace. And
gotcha.
then
Okay.
click on the link, and then it adds you. Hopefully, you have Slack installed on your computer, and then it adds that little workspace icon to your you can have many different Slack workspaces.
Good. So if I am on my work group Slack, so I'm on my ePresence Slack channel, and you post something in that community on Slack that I've joined, do I get notified of that?
So every time you open up Slack, there's different channels on the left-hand side, and then if there's anything new, it's that channel is bolded, so you can read the latest. Whatever someone's posted on that Slack channel.
That's awesome. All right. So I think this is really interesting. Here at ePresence, we use Teams because we have a subscription with Office 365. And I do have a couple of Teams channels. And I will tell you, I haven't gotten my head around how that works in Teams. It's probably, I'm going to guess, easier in Slack. But this is a cool thing. So you can easily move in between. And what I think is interesting, it's almost more profitable to build a community on Slack than on Facebook, because those people are going to be able to interact easier with Slack than going to Facebook. So they got to log into Facebook. They're automatically going to be on Slack because that's what they use at work. Is that what you're finding, or is that not as big of an advantage as I'm thinking?
So it depends on actually the employer, because some employers actually block Facebook use during the day.
Very good point.
So I think that a Slack community is more conducive to the workplace if you're trying to form a workplace community. But if you're trying to form an extracurricular community, like a hobby community around red Jeeps, or around quilting, or or something like that, it's better to be on a Facebook group. But if you're trying to do something that's work-based, it's better to be on Slack. There's also another place called Mighty Networks. I'm going to butcher her name, Gina Bianchini or something like that, where you can host a course and a community at the same time.
Hmm.
But to be honest, like I've tried logging into some of those communities that were on Mighty Bell, and it's really hard to get engagement
Oh,
because
that's not good.
you have to log into yet another platform. Whereas with
Right.
Slack, it's like it's right there. So you could have like 20 different workspaces or something like that with HubSpot, with like different people, like just different groups you're part of.
Oh, it's just brilliant. How do you come up with content? How do you determine what to post onto Slack to engage your community? Because as the administrator of that community, it's on you to kind of throw the fuel on the fire. What do you say in that group?
So it depends on the group and why you created that group, right? What are the value adds that group has over any other group? But there's like, say, an introductions channel. They can get people to introduce themselves in. You could also have like a certain channel just to discuss like a certain topic in their industry.
Okay.
There's also AMAs, ask me anything.
AMAs, ask me anything. I love that.
Ask me anything. And then you could also have like a channel for, say, feedback, where like you can post, like a sales sequence screenshot and be like, give me feedback on this. It's not working. What am I doing wrong? Here's my buyer persona.
Oh, I love that.
I don't get it.
When I'm going to go back to the AMAs because I've not heard that acronym before. I think that's great. Do you advertise the AMA? Do you say, okay, as on Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have an AMA? Is that a way you promote that, or is it more impromptu? You just pop on there and you start your AMA?
You can hopefully you can schedule it. It's like and you can use it as like an interview between like you and a certain person, so the community can submit questions to like a Google form, or in our case, HubSpot form, on our website, and be like, I want to ask this person these questions. Like here, like submit your questions here on yet another landing page. Or I've seen people also use Google Forms to collect that information, but then it's hard to track this. The CRM aspect is very hard.
Sure, that makes sense. I'd get that.
But then you can do that, and then you can pop in at a certain time, and then do the AMA, and then you can also reshare that AMA as like a podcast. You can transcribe it and put it on your blog. So it's like, and then there's like also I think there's like social media AI software. I think it's like Missing Letter or something like that you can like copy and paste that blog post, or put the content of that blog post into it, and then it will shoot out like social media for you.
Bravo. Well, I love that. We love social media here at ePresence. So I love that boost. Cool. So anything else on Slack before we wrap up? Anything that we haven't hit?
Not really. Like
good.
It's just you just have to realize that like the community, you may host the community, but then also the community belongs to the people in the community. So you just gotta know, where your place is, what your role is within that community, as administrator, as someone who continues or starts conversations. But it just know that like the success of the community depends on its individual members.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important. And engaging those members in a way, and you've given some great suggestions on how to do that. All right, Islin, how can people find you? Where should we send them?
We can go to theiamarketing.com. There's our website, and then we also have LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all those different.
You're all over the place, huh?
Yep. We're everywhere. So you can find us everywhere.
Outstanding. Is there a particular industry that you focus on, or a particular type of client that you find you do really well with? And if those folks are out there, they should call you?
Sure. So we focus on technical marketing. So industrial marketing, SaaS, manufacturing, the folks who are having a hard time getting their message to align with their buyer personas to get content out there to really grow their audience and grow their clients, grow their business.
Perfect. Well, good. Well, so I appreciate you coming in today. What you've shared is a great kickoff to our new library series. And what we'll do is we'll drop this on our YouTube channel with all these keywords about Facebook groups and Slack communities and Facebook communities and landing page for Facebook communities. So this is all good stuff. I am so appreciative of you taking time out today. I know that you guys you're working from home. You got a lot going on. I see a whiteboard behind you, as a matter of fact, which kind of cracks me up because I have a feeling if that was in my office, it would be full of stuff. So I'm impressed that it's so clean. Do you guys use that for just work, or do your kids use that?
Both. So
the feeling.
So basically, we have when the kids want to use it, we draw a line, and then they can work below the line. But then above the line, that's for work. So that's
great. The only danger I see with that is that it's on the wall, and they have to know they can only write on this part of the wall. Does that ever become a problem?
So I have a funny story about that. So back in Alaska, we actually had some friends come over, and the friends had a chalkboard wall. And so the kids just thought they could write on any wall. And so after a play date was over, we went into our all pairs guest room, and there was drawings on the wall. And I'm like,
uh-oh.
But so that was when the kids were younger, 3, 4. But now that they're older, they know not to draw on the wall.
I could see that as being a serious problem. I would not have gotten that when I was a kid. I can draw on that wall. Why can't I draw on this one? All right, Islin, thank you for being here. I so appreciate it. Hang out. I'd love to chat with you after I go through the back end of the show here and make sure we connect with each other. But thank you for being here. I appreciate your knowledge, your wisdom, and I think that our audience is going to appreciate all the great things that you've shared.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mark. And it's great talking about building a community.
It is. Absolutely. All right. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Now, for the rest of you, as you know, we constantly have our website stuff that we're doing, or our webinars, I should say, and we continue to run them. In fact, we have a 1.0 and a 2.0. So this is all about your LinkedIn profile. We're about to launch a 3.0 where we continue to build our, really we're trying to help folks out on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is so important. In 2008, during the last financial crisis, there were 35 million people on LinkedIn. Today, over 706 million people are on LinkedIn. So you've got to be there. Are you a person that should be looking at this? All right. If you're someone that's been furloughed, you've got to know you should really be optimizing your LinkedIn profile. What if they don't pull you back off a furlough? You need to be ready to get another job. People that are hired, as an example, this is why LinkedIn is so important. People who are hired from a job source through LinkedIn are 40% less likely to leave that job in 6 months. What does that mean? That means employers are going to LinkedIn to look for you. If you're trying to grow your return on investment, you're trying to find new clients, that is, through LinkedIn, you should understand that 87% of LinkedIn messages are returned when you have a robust profile. So you got to make sure that you're building out your profiles on LinkedIn. It is extremely important. So interested in this, you can see it right on the screen. Go to e.pr.me/discount and you can join us. We're running all of our webinars for $37.50 a person. So if you know someone that's out of work, somebody that's in sales, trying to reach more people, somebody that's on furlough, you should be sending them to our webinar. We have only 10 spots on each webinar. Every single person gets individual attention on those webinars, and I run it. So I sit and talk to every person. They walk away with direct information on how to improve their profile. Now, here on ePresence, what do? Reminder, at ePresence, we manage social media. We're a full-service social media agency. That means we'll manage the full company social media. We handle the executive C-suite. So if everybody in the C-suite needs to get on LinkedIn, but they don't know how, we can help them with that. We also have a great program where we help out college students with their LinkedIn profiles. College students are very good on Instagram, on Snapchat, on TikTok. They need to get on LinkedIn, but they're not sure how. We help do that. There's a college student that we're working with this week from Notre Dame. She's extremely capable. She doesn't even have a platform on LinkedIn, so we help with that. If you're interested in taking advantage of any of this, just because you're a listener, you can get a 5% discount on any of our services. Go to epresence.me/how's your ePresence. epresence.me is our website. It's epresence.me because it's all about you /how's your ePresence, and you can take advantage of that 5% discount. You can find this show everywhere. We're on LinkedIn. We are on LinkedIn. We drop it after the fact, but we're on YouTube and Facebook. We run those live. You can always catch us anywhere. Please, please, please consider joining us by subscribing. I'm trying to find the button. There it is. So subscribe to our show so you know when we go live, or add us to your podcast. Will automatically appear in any podcast app. We're everywhere. This makes sure that you're up to date with all the content we're sharing, especially because we're doing newscasts separately. And if we've got something brand new, we'll pop online, and Eric and I, our director of social media, will end up talking about that. Well, until next time, for my guest, Islin Munisteri, I am Mark Galvin, and this has been How's Your ePresence?